we are going to be doing some work with graphs. Our learning target has to do with using bar graphs, pictographs, and line plots to answer questions. A lot of you really like this section of the year, and so I think you'll probably enjoy this. So we're going to go through just a couple of bar graphs and a couple questions that you might see in bar graphs, and just to remember how that all works. So you know that there's always a title at the top, and we always know that there are labels on the bottom and the top, the bottom and the side. So in this case it says months, and so it lists 4 months. This is number of visitors. And then there's always a scale, and sometimes the scale goes by 2s, 4s, 6, 8s, so forth, by 2s, by 5s, by 10s. This one, in this case, you can see it goes by 50s. So 50, 100, 150, 200, and so on. So it's always good to look at the graph carefully before you try to answer any questions, to make sure you understand that this is the number of visitors to Lost Creek Park. These are the months, summer, that makes sense, number of visitors. So let's look at the first question. There were how many more visitors to Lost Creek Park in June than in May? So we have a comparison here. They want to know how many more visitors were in June versus May. And you can see June was bigger, and then we're going to look at May. All right, so when we have bars that are somewhere between some lines, which happens a lot, you kind of have to look at it and see where is that in here. So if we look at June, and we see that the line is halfway between 450 and 500. Well, if we have lines of 50s, and we have to think about, what's half of 50 if I'm going through it? So it takes 2 25s to make a 50. So this is going to be 25 more than 450. So this will be 475 is halfway between 450 and 500. And it says how many more visitors in the park in June than in May. So that tells us it's a subtraction problem. So we're going to use subtraction because they want to know how many more, comparing these two. So then we look at this one, and it's halfway between 300 and 350. So that's 325 is halfway there. And then we're going to set up our paper like that. I would love it if you could have some scratch paper. If you don't have any scratch paper right now, please go get some with a pencil, because I'd love for you to do this problem for me. You can just pause me and go get that. So I'm assuming now at this point you have this written on your paper, and you're doing this with me. So 5 minus 5 equals 0 ones. 7 tens minus 2 tens equals 5 tens. 400 minus 300, 400 minus 3 is 150. So we would have 150. And it says how many more visitors? More visitors. Okay, so we know that when we're looking at this kind of situation, again, we're looking at what's half or so in between, that we might have these numbers that aren't exact. And then this one, it goes side to side. So we know that this one is what we call a horizontal bar graph. And down here we have what's called a vertical bar graph. Same setup in that we have a title, canned goods at Turner's Market. We have labels on the side and the bottom. In this case it says canned goods, the 3 different kinds, and the number of cans. And again, we look and see what the scale is that goes along here. So remember, every time you have a bar graph, you're going to have a 0 at the bottom, 0 at the side, depending on where the number scale is. All right, so here's 0, and here are the numbers. And if we look at how we're being counted by hundreds. So again, they have questions like how many cans of peas are at Turner's Market. So you look at peas, you go up to the place, you kind of look at where that line is, follow it over, 400. So that would be 400 cans. Now this one says, are there more cans of beans or peas and peaches combined? So we look there and we see that I could count just by hundreds here: 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. And then we can see that the beans are not as much as 700. So I can do a problem where I write it down: 400 plus 300 equals 700, and then I subtract out how much that that other one has. I could do that, but I also can just use the picture. I can use the amount of space if I understand where the lines are. I can use that space. So, are there more cans of beans or peas or peaches combined? So I would say more peas and peaches. Okay, so up here I could also do a similar thing since I'm comparing these two. I could say, well, I know this is 100. Oh, what did I not do? Oh my goodness. So 475 minus, did I do this right? 470 right? Minus 325, 150 visitors. Oh yeah, because these are 50s. So wow, I was having a hard time there. So that's a 50 spot. That's a 50 spot. And then I know this is 25. So that's 50 is 100. 25 plus 25 is 150. Wow. Sometimes Mrs. Harrison just has to double check her work. We all do. All right, next thing we're doing here is we're looking at a pictograph. As part of our learning target says we are going to be using bar graphs, also pictograms and line plots. So the thing to remember about a pictograph is you always need to look at that area there that's got the key. The key is going to tell you what you need to especially pay most attention to, so what those pictures stand for, because they don't always just stand for one of something. So in this case it says that our ice cream cone stands for 4 votes. So if you have half of an ice cream cone, it's going to be half of that 4, which is 2 then in that case. Okay, so if you're looking at, you're going to have all kinds of questions. How many votes were there for chocolate? So you could count by 4s. There you go, or do your multiplication. How many people in all voted for the favorite ice cream flavor? And all voted, so finding a total of all of these. Again, we could count by 4s, or we could do an addition problem. Let's answer this one though. How many votes were there for cherry vanilla? So I'm going to say cherry vanilla. So I have 1, 2, 3 ice cream cones. So 3 times 4 equals 12 votes. I could also do the counting. I could say 4, 8, 12. I could do that. Then it says how many people did not vote for chocolate. So I would have to figure out how many were from here and not for chocolate. Okay? So again, when you're using pictograms, make sure you look at that. Make sure for a pictograph, you look at the key. All right, the next one has to do with line plots. Now remember, line plots are a way that we put information down so we can easily look at how the data worked out, and usually it has to do with time or numbers of things. The physical fitness coach asked her students to walk around a track 4 times. 4 laps equals 1 mile. She recorded their times on the line plot below. So here we go. So they made a line plot of how many students for each of those times. Now this is time to complete 4 laps in minutes. So when it says 17 and a half, it means 17 minutes and 30 seconds, right? So if we look here, we can see the time that it took most of the kids to run, about here. Some of them were faster, some of them were slower. So it says, what is the difference between the greatest and the least amount of time it took students to walk 4 laps? Well, so the greatest was 18, and the least, now there is a 0 here, but you'll notice there's a big gap between 0 and 13. Because the fastest person, it's the other way around, huh? The fastest person only took 13 minutes, whereas there wasn't anything that was in between there. This person was the slowest person, right? This is the fastest versus the slowest. All right, so the difference, when we have difference, we have to subtract, because we wouldn't add 18 minutes plus 13 minutes. That doesn't make any sense. We subtract. So the difference there is 5 minutes. So between the fastest runner and the slower runner, 15 minutes. Did more students complete the laps in 16 minutes or more, or in 15 and a half minutes or fewer? So this is where we have to look at it and kind of chunk it into 2 parts. So 16 minutes or more is this direction, and 15 or less is this direction. We're trying to look for which one has the most people. So we can just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is 11 kiddos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 8. Oh, a lot more. Okay, so we could say, so the question says, did more students complete the laps in 60 minutes or more, or in 15 and a half minutes or fewer? So 15 and a half minutes fewer had the greater number of people by quite a bit. All right, so you're going to have some questions today that have you looking at data in bar graphs, in pictographs, and in line plots. And so answer those questions. A lot of them are multiple choice, so you guys will be great. All right, see you tomorrow.